Most people aren't broke because they're lazy or dumb. They're broke because they've been taught habits that sound smart, but silently destroy progress. Things like play it safe, don't take risks, just work hard. They seem responsible, but when repeated blindly, they become chains. Not financial chains, mental ones. You wake up, go to work, pay your bills, and try to save what's left. But somehow nothing changes. That's not bad luck, it's a broken system. One that rewards survival, not wealth. And unless you break the pattern, you'll keep repeating it, year after year, while wondering why nothing moves. The rich don't just earn more, they think differently. They question defaults. They reject advice that feels safe but keeps them stuck. And in this video, we'll expose the 15 habits that are quietly draining your future without you realizing it. This isn't about motivation. It's about rewiring, because you're probably not doing anything wrong, but you're definitely not doing what works. Let's uncover what's been holding you back. Let's dismantle the patterns that keep people broke, quietly, consistently, and completely. Habit 1. Confusing frugality with fear. Most broke people think they're being responsible when they say things like, "I just want to be careful with my money." But caution becomes a prison when it's driven by fear, not strategy. Saving. Money is smart, but avoiding opportunities because you're afraid to lose, that's how people stay stuck for life. They say no to every investment, every idea, every new skill, and they call it wisdom. But what it really is defense. Wealth doesn't grow in defense. It grows in movement, learning, and taking calculated risks. You don't need to be reckless, but if you're afraid of every loss, you'll never allow yourself a win. Frugality has its place, but it's not a wealth-building strategy. It's a survival one. The rich don't cut their way to wealth. They build their way out. They know when to say no, yes, but they also know when to bet on themselves. If your entire mindset is about saving pennies instead of learning how to earn dollars, you're playing a shrinking game. And eventually, there's nothing left to cut. Real progress begins the moment you stop asking, "How do I protect what I have?" and start asking, "How do I multiply it?" Many people think they're being wise by holding back, but fear disguised as responsibility is still fear. If you want to move faster, you have to expose the difference. Ask yourself, is this decision smart or just safe? Am I preserving or avoiding? Because avoiding discomfort feels responsible until you realize it cost you a decade. Growth doesn't feel safe. It feels uncertain, awkward, and sometimes painful. And that's how you know it's working. If you're too comfortable with every financial decision, you're not growing. You're just surviving a little longer. Habit 2. Believing hard work is the solution. Hard work is romanticized. It makes you feel noble. It makes you feel like you deserve success. But here's the truth. No one gets rich from working hard alone. The poorest people on earth work the longest hours. If effort alone built wealth, they'd be billionaires. What really builds wealth is leverage, knowing where to apply your effort, when to stop doing low-value tasks, and how to detach your income from your time. That's the difference between struggle and scale. The problem is that many broke people wear hard work like a badge of honor, as if being exhausted means they're on the right path. But exhaustion is not a sign of alignment. It's often a sign of misdirection. The rich don't work harder. They delegate, automate, and prioritize. They protect their energy and focus it where it multiplies. But if you've been trained to grind endlessly, you'll feel guilty when you rest. That guilt keeps you from thinking strategically and traps you in the cycle of work for survival instead of work for scale. You don't escape poverty by doing more of what keeps you tired. You escape by designing systems that make money move without your constant push. That shift, from labor to leverage, is everything. And until you make it, you'll always feel like you're running hard and staying in the same place. Remember, a hamster wheel feels like progress too. It's not the work that makes the difference. It's the design behind it. Habit 3. Seeking validation instead of results. Most broke people make decisions based on how it looks, not how it works. They want to appear responsible, look successful, sound smart. So they buy things they can't afford to impress people who don't care. They chase degrees to gain approval, not skills. They seek permission instead of outcomes. But wealth doesn't reward appearances, it rewards execution. And while you're trying to look the part, someone else is building the engine behind the scenes. Validation is emotional debt. You keep spending time, energy, and money trying to be seen, when that same energy could be used to build something real. This habit runs deep. It shows up in job choices, social media habits, even relationships. It's not about what's smart, it's about what's acceptable. But the truth is, wealth often looks boring before it looks impressive. The people building it aren't flashy. They're focused. They're invisible until they're undeniable. You don't need applause. You need traction. The rich don't explain their moves. They track them. They don't chase recognition. They chase outcomes. If you want to stop being broke, stop building for optics. Build for effect. Every decision should serve your vision, not your ego. When you let go of being seen, you finally become effective. Habit 4. Thinking small is the same as being practical. Many people mistake small thinking for being realistic. They tell themselves, I just want a simple life, or I'm not trying to be rich, just comfortable. But here's the problem. Most of the time, they're not choosing simplicity. They're settling. They've accepted ceilings that were handed to them by fear, family, or failure, and instead of challenging those limits, they wrap them in virtue. But you can't win a game you refuse to play fully. Practicality becomes poison when it justifies inaction. Playing small feels safe because it avoids criticism, risk, and responsibility, but it also avoids growth. The truth is, big thinking doesn't mean reckless dreaming. It means giving yourself permission to expand. The rich don't start big. They think big and act smart. They aim beyond their comfort zone because they know comfort is where dreams go to die. Playing small doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. You don't need to chase yachts or private jets. But you do need to think beyond survival, because if all you plan for is just enough, that's all you'll ever have. Barely. The cost of thinking small isn't failure. It's limitation. And that cost compounds every year you stay in that box. Habit 5. Avoiding money conversations. Poor people often treat money like a taboo. They don't ask how much someone earns. They avoid discussing debt. They never talk about investing, negotiation, or wealth with friends or family because it feels awkward, rude, or shameful. But silence creates ignorance. And ignorance is expensive. The rich talk about money constantly, not out of greed, but out of strategy. They compare, they ask questions, they learn. Because money isn't a mystery to them. It's a language they speak fluently. Avoiding financial conversations keeps you guessing. It keeps you afraid to ask for more, to charge what you're worth, or to admit you need help. And that fear turns into passivity. You don't negotiate. You don't research. You just hope things work out. But wealth doesn't grow in silence. It grows in conversation. The more you normalize talking about money, the faster your knowledge, confidence, and power compound. Want to escape being broke? Start talking about money, even when it's uncomfortable. Ask how people budget. Talk about investments. Discuss salaries. Find mentors. Study contracts. Be curious. Because the moment you stop avoiding the topic, you stop being controlled by it. Silence isn't protection, it's a cage. Habit 6. Measuring success by effort instead of outcome. Poor people often say, at least I tried. And while effort is admirable, it's not always effective. The world doesn't pay you for how hard you try. It pays you for the results you deliver. And if you confuse effort with progress, you'll work yourself into exhaustion and stay stuck anyway. The rich know this. They track outcomes. They look at numbers. They measure what works. And they cut what doesn't, even if it took effort. The truth is, many people stay broke because they don't want to let go of the things they worked hard on. Even when those things aren't working. They stay in jobs, businesses, and relationships that are clearly broken because of how much they've invested. But sunk cost isn't strategy. It's stagnation disguised as loyalty. And the longer you stay loyal to a broken process, the more time you lose. You don't get rewarded for trying. You get rewarded for delivering. That doesn't mean you shouldn't care or commit. It means you should evaluate based on reality, not just effort. Don't let your energy blind you. Let your results guide you. Because effort without reflection becomes wasted years, and effort with clarity becomes leverage. Habit 7. Waiting for permission to begin. Many broke people wait. For the right time, for approval, for someone to say, yes, you can. They wait to feel ready, to feel qualified, to feel seen. But wealth doesn't wait. It moves. The people who win aren't the most prepared. They're the ones who start anyway. They act, learn, adjust, and grow. Meanwhile, the rest wait for clarity that never comes. The truth? Permission is an illusion. No one's coming to tell you you're ready. You decide that, the longer you wait, the colder the trail gets. And over time, hesitation becomes identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who plans a lot, who's working on something, but never actually moves. And that identity feels safe because it protects you from failure. But it also protects you from progress. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards motion. And those who move fast, even messy, eventually outrun those still perfecting their plan. You don't need another sign. You need action. Send the email, launch the product, post the offer, start the pitch, ask the question, read the contract, take the call. Whatever you're waiting to be ready for, do it now, ready or not. That's how doors open, not by knocking, but by walking in. Habit 8. Thinking income is the same as wealth. One of the most dangerous illusions among broke people is believing that a high income equals wealth. They think that making $10K a month means they're winning, but their lifestyle burns $9,800 of it. Or worse, they upgrade every time they earn more. New car, better apartment, flashier wardrobe, but nothing builds. Because they confused flow with foundation. The rich know the difference, and they build accordingly. Wealth isn't what you earn, it's what you keep, grow, and protect. High income with poor habits is just a faster treadmill, and many broke people earn well, but have nothing to show for it. No assets, no systems, no leverage, just lifestyle inflation disguised as success. The result? Stress, dependency, and a life that collapses the second income stops. That's not wealth. That's a trap with shiny furniture. If you want to break the cycle, stop chasing income and start designing wealth. That means learning about assets, ownership, compounding, and cash flow. It means asking, how do I make money work without me? Instead of, how can I work harder for more money? Because income is a stream. But wealth is a reservoir, and you can't drink from what you spend every time it rains. Habit 9. Avoiding responsibility by blaming systems. It's true. The system isn't fair. There are real barriers, education gaps, systemic inequality, economic traps. But here's what keeps many people broke. They stop at blame. They see the game is rigged and quit playing. They wait for the world to change before they do. And that's exactly how the system wins. Not by force, but by draining your belief in agency. The rich? They don't deny the system. They learn to navigate it, bend it, and build their own within it. Blame feels comforting. It makes you the victim, and victims don't have to take risky action. But blame is passive. It doesn't build. It just recycles pain. Responsibility, on the other hand, is power. It says, yes, the game is rigged, and I'm still moving forward. That shift is radical. It's not about ignoring injustice. It's about refusing to give away your steering wheel to it. You can acknowledge the system and refuse to be trapped by it. The moment you reclaim ownership, even in unfair conditions, is the moment you start building power. Not just money, but mindset. And mindset, when forged in resistance, becomes unshakable. The world may be tilted, but your strategy doesn't have to be. Own your next step, and you tilt it back. Habit 10. Thinking budgeting alone creates wealth. Budgeting is important, but it's not a wealth strategy. Many broke people obsess over cutting costs, tracking every dollar, and living within limits, but they never build systems that grow. Income. It's like organizing the furniture in a sinking boat. You feel productive, but you're not escaping. The rich do budget, but they do it as a piece of a larger system. Earn more, protect better, invest faster. Budgeting alone is just control, not expansion. Poor people often budget from a place of fear. They believe the only way to stay afloat is to shrink their life as small as possible. But cutting costs can only go so far. You can't budget your way into abundance. At some point, you have to create, risk, scale, and earn differently. That means getting out of survival mode and into builder mode. Budgeting helps manage the present. It does nothing to construct the future. If your financial plan only consists of spend less, you're not planning, you're retreating. Real wealth doesn't come from squeezing harder. It comes from expanding smarter. Budget with purpose, but don't worship it, because at some point, the goal isn't to survive your spreadsheet, it's to outgrow it completely. Habit 11, taking. Pride in doing everything yourself. I don't need help. No one's coming to save me. I'll figure it out alone. These sound strong, but they're often rooted in scarcity and control. Many broke people wear self-sufficiency, like a badge, not realizing that the rich collaborate. They hire, delegate, ask, and receive, not because they're weak, but because they understand one thing: speed requires support. You can go alone or you can go fast, but rarely both. Refusing help doesn't make you independent. It makes you slower. The wealthy build leverage through other people, mentors, teams, advisors, networks. They don't try to be experts in everything. They stay in their lane and empower others to amplify results. Meanwhile, broke people waste years trying to figure it all out, but pride is expensive, and the longer you try to do it all, the less you build. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. If someone else already solved your problem, borrow their blueprint. That's what books are, what coaching is, what partnerships are for. You don't get extra points for struggle, you get stuck. If you want to speed up your life, learn to ask better questions, in better rooms, to people who've already crossed the river you're still staring at. Habit 12. Prioritizing stability over growth. Stability is sold as the goal, the dream. A good job, a steady paycheck, a safe retirement. But here's the truth. When stability becomes your top priority, growth dies quietly. Most broke people cling to comfort because they fear the unknown, and that fear freezes them in place. They'll stay in underpaying jobs, refuse to pivot, reject risks, all to protect a fragile version of safety. But safety without growth is stagnation in disguise. The rich don't hate stability, they just don't worship it. They see it as a tool, not a destination. They build resilience so they can take better risks, not avoid them. They push into discomfort because that's where breakthroughs live. But poor people see every unknown as danger instead of potential. And by doing so, they trade growth for predictability and call it wisdom. If everything in your life feels stable, ask yourself, is it because it's healthy or because it's stagnant? Have you built foundations that let you rise or walls that keep you boxed in? Stability should be a launch pad, not a leash. Use it wisely, but don't let it become a cage you're too afraid to leave. Habit 13. Making decisions based on emotion instead of data. Poor people often decide based on how they feel. I don't feel like investing right now. This looks risky. This seems like a bad time. And while gut instinct can be useful, it's unreliable when fear, insecurity, or past trauma are driving it. The wealthy don't make reactive moves. They make informed ones. They study, track, ask, and verify. Emotion informs them, but never drives the steering wheel. When you operate on emotion alone, your decisions become volatile. One bad day and you pull out of a good investment. One criticism and you quit your project. One mistake and you never try again. That's how people stay broke, not because of lack of options, but because they don't trust process. The rich. Understand this. Emotions are real, but not always reliable. Discipline is stronger than mood. Want to escape that cycle? Build a habit of reflection, not reaction. Track what's working. Analyze results. Learn the difference between discomfort and danger. Get advisors. Build a feedback loop. Because when you start acting from evidence instead of emotion, your life becomes sharper, calmer, and more effective. Emotional maturity is wealth, because it keeps your strategy intact when everything shakes. Habit 14. Seeking entertainment over education. When poor people have free time, they escape. They binge shows, scroll endlessly, seek distraction. And, while rest is healthy, constant escape is lethal. It trains your brain to consume instead of create, to numb instead of notice, to be entertained instead of equipped. The wealthy consume differently. They read, listen, attend, reflect. Not because they're better, but because they understand time compounds, and every hour is either building you or bleeding you. Entertainment isn't evil. But when it becomes the default, it robs your mind of focus. You stop building the mental wiring for patience, complexity, and strategy. You become reactive, overstimulated, and addicted to novelty. Education, on the other hand, requires intention. It stretches you, slows you down, forces depth. That's why most avoid it. Not because they don't have time, but because they're addicted to easy input. Every time you pick the easy feed over the deep lesson, you reinforce a habit, and that habit becomes identity. Want to move faster in life? Change how you use idle time. Swap 30 minutes of scrolling for a podcast. Watch one documentary per week. Take one online course a month. Your attention is currency, and most people go broke paying it to things that never pay back. Habit 15. Believing struggle is noble. This is the final, and maybe most toxic habit, thinking that struggle itself is a badge of honor. Many broke people glorify suffering. They believe the harder their life is, the more moral they are. At least I'm not cheating. I earn every cent with blood. I didn't take shortcuts. But here's the truth. Struggle doesn't make you noble. It just makes you tired. And being tired doesn't build wealth. Strategy does. The rich don't romanticize hardship. They respect it, but they don't seek it. If something can be done easier, cleaner, smarter, they'll take that path every time. That doesn't mean they avoid effort. It means they avoid pointless pain. Meanwhile, many poor people stay stuck in cycles that look virtuous but pay nothing. Loyalty to suffering is not success. It's self-sabotage wrapped in honor. The world doesn't pay you for how hard your journey was. It pays you for what you built. That's not unfair. It's reality. So if you're addicted to struggle, ask yourself, am I working hard, or am I making it hard to feel worthy? Because you don't need to bleed to earn. You need to build. Let go of the drama. Choose results. And never confuse suffering with strategy again. Now you see it. The trap was never just poverty. It was pattern. Habits that look responsible, feel safe, even noble, but quietly keep you broke. Not because you're not trying, but because you're repeating systems that never built anything real. The truth? Most people don't need more motivation. They need new mechanics. What you've done until now got you here. But to get out, to move forward, you'll need to break what feels normal. These 15 habits aren't just bad ideas. They're cultural scripts passed down like wisdom, recycled like truth. But truth builds, and these don't. So now you choose. Stay loyal to struggle, or switch to strategy. Keep shrinking to feel in control, or stretch into discomfort to actually grow. This isn't judgment. It's permission to walk out of the mindset that taught you to survive and start building the one that lets you expand. Quietly, deliberately, unapologetically.